Hi, Tracy Nutton here with another video tutorial for yourselves. Today I'm going to be making this lovely card using a range of Sweet Poppy Stencils products. I'm going to start with the Lotus Flower stencil, which I really love. It's really quite pretty and ornate. I'm going to use for the background the Bubble stencil, which I also love, but you could use the stripe stencils. I'll show you later on some examples that I did using some other stencils within the range using exactly the same techniques. I'm going to be using a Sentiment Smile It's Your Birthday from the Beautiful Day sentiment stamp set, but again you could use any of those or any that you have in your stash. I'm going to use a range of Sweet Poppy Stencils brushes and a fine detail one, and you'll see why I'll use that one later. Some pens. I'm going to use gold for the bees, and I'm going to use white just to take out, if I end up doing a bee in a place where there's a colour behind it, the white can take that out so that it doesn't make the bee the wrong colour. So without any hesitation, let's get going. So going to start with a piece of card, again white, super smooth, 300 GSM at 14 by 14 centimeters. Going to take a magnetic sheet, and straight away we start making our background. So using the Bubbles stencil, just line it up. So sometimes when you're lining stencils up and you want to make sure they're straight and you're not sure, you know, how to hold that and flip it over, you can just lay that down, plonk your magnetic sheet that way. So that's another way of doing it. So I've got some distress ink today. I've got Faded Jeans, Fire Brick, and I also have my trusty Squeeze Lemonade. Going to start, as always, when I'm doing a range of colours together, I'm going to start with the lightest and then work my way down. Sometimes I just prep my brushes to make it a little bit quicker and a little bit easier. I'm going to use the Fire Brick as well. So you can go in as deep and as dark as you like, or you can keep it as quite subtle. It's absolutely your choice. So going to grab some kitchen towel. Wow, I think I borrowed somebody else's teeth today, apologies. So just going to take off a little bit, make sure that it's not overpowering, and I'm just using, as I always say to you, that I try to use as a triangle effect to try and make sure that the colour is evenly spread. So, and I'm keeping it nice and light. You might not necessarily see it, but I will show you what it looks like. So I've done down here, and then I'm going to pop some in this corner over here. It doesn't matter which way round you use this stencil. Again, as Lucy always says, you can use stencils anyway, unless of course they're wording. So I can come back to that yellow, that's fine. I'm going to take off some red. See, again, that red's really rich, so I'm just going to take it back. You can always add it, but it's really tricky to take it back. So when the red hits the yellow, obviously we're going to end up with some orange. So again, just by using 3 colours, we can make a beautiful rainbow of colour on one piece of paper or piece of card. Let's add some blue in, and then I can see where else I'd like to add different colours. So I've done this technique using stripes backplate, but there's many back plates that you could use for this technique. It's absolutely your choice. Again, you can make your colours as vibrant or as subtle as you like, just by working your way around and just gently swirling. So sorry, my bracelet's going to make lots of noise today. So back in with the red. Again, when the red touches the blue, obviously it makes lovely purples, which is really lovely as well. So just spend a little bit of time on this. Then I think I may go back in with the yellow and see if we can just overlap. So because I'm going to go over the actual image with a real heavy black, it doesn't matter if your background's quite vibrant and pops. So it really does depend on you. This would make a really good birthday card, thank you card. Just to say, so I've done a couple of examples. I've done one that would make it look suitable for a younger recipient. I'm sure that's the word. Apologies if it's not. Oh. It's the summer holidays here and my brain is officially in a box, resting, ready for September. So that's my background. I'm happy with that. So I'm just going to, as always, bend the magnetic sheet to release the stencil. And there we have the background. So I'm just going to pop the stencil out of the way. So we go back in again. This is quite a quick technique. You can now have a look and see which way you would like to use your stencil. I'm going to use the Lotus flower, and I'm going to use it with the Sweet Poppy stencils down, because then this creates a space over here to fit the sentiment on. I'm just going to have a little look, and as long as this part up here is on and this part here is on, then I am happy. Let's just pop this down. I'm going to take some low tack tape, she says, looking around for some. Okay, and I'm just going to mask off just down this side just to protect the background. I'm going to add just a little tiny bit this side to stop it from moving. There we go. So for the initial application of black, I do like to just use a sponge applicator, but it is your preference, whichever type of method you would like to use. It's just that some of the stencils that you use are quite open and it seems to take quite a long time. You don't want to flood it instantly. It takes quite a long time to build up the intensity of the black. So, I was going to say, something in is now squeaking. I think it was the ink pads. Let me move them out of the way. Just building that up, and then love the detail brushes from Sweet Poppy Stencils. They are absolutely fantastic, and especially really good for this type of stencil where you've got lots of points and pieces that are quite intricate. So I tend to just dot the excess ink in the middle, because we obviously need it, and then work it out so that it doesn't bleed underneath, because that's what we definitely want to avoid. And then I come away for a little bit to give that a chance to dry. So this does take a bit of time, but it is worth it. And then just working into those little finer details and intricate areas. Apologies if this takes a bit of time, but there's no point in rushing this, because otherwise all of the hard work that you've done on the background will all be in vain. There we go. Nice and gently. Swirling motions. I'm not pushing down, I'm not damaging the bristles on that brush, and when I'm loading up I'm taking my time to go around. I noticed that I don't know if anybody else does, but I tend to, whenever I put a stamp on an ink pad, I tend to always end up dabbing in the middle. That means that the ink that's all the way around these edges never seems to really get used up. So the perfect way of making sure that I'm using my ink pads evenly. And as you can see, there's a lot of ink around the outside of that, so definitely don't want to waste. So again, I tend to just go around the outside, then dab in. Might go back to the sponge and just try and apply a little bit more, and then come back for the finer, smaller areas. So twisting around the outside, gently dabbing in, twisting around the outside, dabbing in. There we go, it's a little bit quicker. Being so careful not to flood the image, but I really want this to be really sort of solid. Okay, let's go back in with this little tiny brush. Okay, let's have a little look now. So you should work around these edges, making sure that you are covering all of the delicate areas of the stencil. Trying to use now the ink that's already on the stencil itself to just fill in those tips of the petals. Just had a little look up then to make sure I was actually recording. That would be my luck this week. Okay, so I am almost there. There's just a couple of more tips that I just want to make sure, just so it gives that crisp finish to your card. Nothing worse than you take the stencil off and then you've missed all of those beautiful tips and your petals look a bit of a funny shape. So I'm just going to take my black Sweet Poppy Stencils brush and just swirl it gently in to make sure that I take all that additional ink that's just on the stencil itself back into the work, nice and gently. So let's move this out of the way. I probably will heat this because I keep putting black everywhere today. Look, I'm covered in it. I don't know what's the matter with me. I'm like a child at the minute, can't be taken anywhere. Okay, let's give my hands a bit of a wipe. So, and let's plug in my heat gun just so that I can set the black. So let's remove ever so gently. Okay. Always take my time removing the stencil tape, even though it is amazing. I just don't want to take any of the paper off by accident. So again, I'm going to push this back and allow the stencil to come off crisp and easily on its own. Move that completely out of the way. So now we have our finished card. Let me just heat this just to make sure that the black, well, I probably will put my fingers in it somewhere along the way. That's all I've seemed to do today. And then just flip it over and make sure. There we go, just quickly. So turn the heat gun off. So I'm just going to wipe my area so that when I flip my card over to put the tape on the back, I don't transfer any of that ink like I did with my original one and then spent 20 minutes trying to rub all the ink off of it. See, I'm happy to give you these hints and tips so that you don't do what I've already done wrong. So there we go. If I lift it up for you, you can see it's really lovely, crisp and clear. There's no bleeding, but that's about taking your time. And just sometimes it's easy to think, oh, there's a space there, I need to fill it, but actually it's about taking your time and making sure that you get it crisp and clear as opposed to the quickest way. So I'm going to use, it says smile, it's your birthday, and there's a lovely space in here that smile fits in. So let's give this an ink up. Now you could use your stamp press, it is entirely up to you. I'm being brave today. Usually I use a stamp press, unless of course it's when I do my bees, and I do love those bees. So if you haven't already got them, they're a must-have in my opinion. Although Lucy's probably really fed up with getting lots of stamp samples from me, all with those bees on. And now there's, you know, 2 in a pack together. I mean, it's even more amazing. So let's have a little look. Okay, so I'm using this line here to line up with the edge of my card, just in case you're thinking, well, how do you make sure that this is straight? And then I just pop it down, just give it a bit of a wriggle. I'm not moving it, but just making sure that these edges are having the equal amount of pressure applied. I'm not worried if I miss a little bit. There is always a fine line pen that we can use just if we're unlucky enough that I haven't inked it properly. So let's go. So I've got a little tiny bit here that I'm not happy with. The rest of it I am. So I'm just going to come in And I'm not putting whole colour down. I'm literally just dotting and filling in that gap really lightly. There we go, and we just come round into that. The centre part of the M is just slightly lighter than the rest. There we go. And again, I'm not scribbling all the way through. I'm using lots of little tiny dots to fill that in. There we go. Happy with that. So of course my cards would not be complete unless I had a B or two. So here is the 2B set, and I'm going to use both of them. Why would you not use both of them? This is my question. Can you tell I'm a bit bee mad? But everybody knows I do love bees. But I used to be a beekeeper, so when you're a beekeeper you have to love bees. So here we go, making sure that she is facing the right way, moving my fingers underneath so I don't put my grubby fingers on my work. Gently down, gentle rock, and up. There's one done, and here she comes, the next one. Again, dotting around the edge of those ink pads, you know, where the ink is the richest. Gentle taps. Okay, just checking that it's inked. There we go. And I think this time I'm going here. Gentle down, wriggle. There we go. So again, putting that one straight back onto the acetate so I don't lose it, because they are slippery little things and they do like to do a bit of a disappearing act. Again, I'm just going to heat those bees, and the reason being is I want to add some gold. Got a gold, I think it's gold, a jelly roll pen. Just trying to see where it says on there what colour it is. I'm sure this is the gold one. It's not got the colour on this one, funnily enough. But what I noticed is I usually use a yellow pencil, which is fine, but I like a bit of sparkle as well. So I thought, well, why not use the gold to have sparkly bees? So just adding this in. I'm not going to do sparkly wings. And the other thing that I did on the other one was I used the white pen just to give me more of a pop of the eye. Now again, I can see on this bee I've got some areas slightly lighter than the rest, but that's okay. Just go in with your fine liner again. This time gentle circular motions, filling in that faded detail. There we go. It probably means that my ink pad needs to be re-inked. So that is our card done for today. I'm going to back that. Now normally I would matte layer, matte layer, matte layer. Everybody knows that that's what I tend to do, but I tried a different method today. So let's just dry the gold, and then I'll show you that I'm only layering this once today. Obviously I don't want the gold pen to go everywhere. Flip it over just to make sure. Flatten the card. So, going to grab, if I can find it, she says, oh, it's hiding. Double-sided tape has gone on a wander. Let's grab a glue instead. I don't know where that disappeared to. I had rolls of it around earlier and now it's all seemed to have disappeared. Anyway, let's go in with a wet glue. That's perfectly fine. So I've just got a white glue that dries clear. It will give me some wiggle room anyway, so I don't mind. just be careful, don't put too thick a coating around the edge. Okay, turn this over. Oh, let me just add a bit in the middle, otherwise it'll end up bubbling up. That's a complete mystery as to where my double-sided tape disappeared to. So I have a piece of black 14 by 14. If this looks too difficult to line up, I did grab a slightly, oh no, I think I've got this. I think I have. Yep, I did grab a bigger piece just in case. Sometimes I think my eyes are a bit skew if, again, I'm just being careful where I'm putting my work because there is marks on there. Let's give this a quick dry. So looking, that edge is ever so slightly longer, or wider should I say. Let's just take a little bit off of that. And when I mean a tiny amount, I mean a tiny amount, that's better. There we go. And then I'm going to mat and layer that straight onto a, I think it's a 7.5 by 7.5 card base. Let me have a look. Yep, 7.5 inches by 7.5 inches card base. So I kept thinking, what stencils am I using? I knew what technique I wanted to do today. I wanted to keep it quite summery, quite colourful. The sun's shining. It's really quite hot here today, so I thought, okay, but I wasn't quite sure which stencils I wanted to use, so I ended up thinking, I think I looked at about 5 or 6 stencils. I'll show you in a second. But again, this technique, once you've got it, you can go back through your stash and see what you've got and try it with all the other stencils. Sometimes it's nice just to think, okay, today I'm going to make lots of standard birthday cards for friends, family, so that you can just go, there's always somebody that pops up and you're like, oh, I forgot their birthday. But if you've got these ready to go, then everyone's a winner. So I did this one. Again, you can see that the original one is ever so slightly brighter. It works with this stencil, and I think by putting the sentiment around the edge, it makes it look a bit younger. Then I used, oh, I'm trying to remember, the Honeysuckle Flourish. I was trying to remember the name of that one then. And I used the stripes, and I think that works really well. And I also used the Lily with the stripes, and I think that works well. And then I used the Cherry Blossom. So, I mean, it is absolutely up to you which technique, which stencils you use, but I think all of them work equally as well. And you just need to look and see what space you have to decide which sentiment. There I've joined 2 sentiments together from the Beautiful Day. I've used Smile It's Your Birthday, Have a Beautiful Day. This one didn't quite fit the Smile It's Your Birthday, so I went Have a Beautiful Day instead. Then, as I say, I did a thank you card, which I think works well. And then I've got a couple of birthday cards to go in my stash. So I hope you've enjoyed today, and enjoy whatever you're doing, and hopefully I'll see you soon. Thank you for joining me, and if you decide to have a go, please make sure you tag me so I can see what you get up to. It'd be lovely to see which stencils you combine together to create similar sort of images. So thank you for joining me. Look after you. Speak to you soon. Bye for now.